Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Big Idea Podcast. My name is Eric Bramlett, and I am joined this week. Very special guest, Cathy Cuny is here. Say hi to Cathy on your internets, wherever you are.
Hi, everybody.
Cathy is our Kid City champion, and it's so good to have her here. And we are talking about a really fantastic big idea that's coming up starting on Mother's Day weekend for us here at Community. And it's called Losing Your Marbles. Now, Cathy, why did you pick a title like Losing Your Marbles and then come here into this environment? Are you about to share some things that have been going on?
Yes, I'm losing my marbles. Yes, I think we all are.
We
daily.
probably all are. Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But it is a series that's based on a book called Losing Your Marbles,
Correct.
and it's a book that was generated through the Orange Folk, the Orange Conference,
Right.
Reggie Joyner,
Right.
that group.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is an effort to engage the family and
Yes.
engage, actively engage parents in what it looks like to lead their students and their kids.
Right.
It's not exclusive, I don't think, to
Nope.
Kid City.
Nope.
And it's probably not exclusive to parents.
Yes, correct.
Talk a little bit about that, because I know that, when we get into our campuses and trying to figure out the demographics and the differences, talk a little bit about, because I think maybe it'll be faster or more intuitive to think in terms of how this applies to a parent who is going through this right now.
Right.
But talk a little bit about how this series can apply to someone who maybe doesn't have kids.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, this could apply to everybody. You don't have to have kids, but everybody has a child, a teenager, someone who has contact in their life. Whether you're a coach, a teacher, an aunt, an uncle, a grandma, grandpa, or just a neighbor. I mean, everybody's got kids. Everybody's got teenagers that are in their life, and how we can just interact with them and just, make that time really valuable is really what this is about. So it's exciting.
I think it's good. Like when I think about it in the context of neighborhood, I mean, I personally, just full confession, I don't like anyone else's kids as much as I like my own kids.
Sure. Of course.
Right? But, next door to me, there's a family of 4, and they're all little goofballs running around.
Right.
And these kind of principles, these kind of things can apply in my relationship with them.
Yes.
To help bless them.
Correct.
To help be, so I think a lot of times, when we think about this, we only think in terms of that familial
Right.
or the closeness. But I think in terms of what it means to be Jesus to other people,
Yep.
you're right. We all have opportunities to do that with people who
Sure.
aren't in our family necessarily.
Yeah.
And so, so I think, in terms of how we frame this content and how it gets contextualized, that's just a really important thing to factor in, and maybe not necessarily automatically think, oh, this doesn't apply to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it applies to everybody. I mean, even you go to a store and maybe a student or a teenager is waiting on you in a restaurant or is checking you out. I mean, just any way that you
And
interact.
you mean checking you out at the grocery line?
At the grocery line,
you
yes.
don't mean
Absolutely.
checking me out.
Yes.
Because
No.
that's creepy.
No, that would be really creepy. Yeah. No, checking you out at the grocery line.
Yes. All right.
Exactly.
I had to say that because I knew Alec was thinking it
Sure.
he was watching this.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, let's dive right in. Let's talk
Great.
about this overall concept of losing your marbles. What is that metaphor, and how are we using this metaphor across the series?
Well, they've done at Orange, they've done this great thing where they put 936 marbles into a jar. And that represents a week from the time your child's born until they go off to college. And so every week...
One marble equals 1 week.
One marble equals 1 week. And every week you take a marble out. So it just represents that each week you're losing a marble. And that's a week of the time indirectly with your child, but with any kid that is going through life. And just to make the most of that time, not it to be a negative,
Right.
and not it to be, oh my gosh, I'm losing this time, but just a visual reminder of I've got to take advantage of every moment, every week that I have.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a great encouragement, I think, for Mother's Day.
Yes.
And a great way to hopefully not scare those moms into moments of of panic, but rather giving them hope and encouragement that this is a valuable time. You're honored in this time.
Absolutely.
And let's celebrate that, and let's figure out how to make the best of it.
Yes, absolutely.
So then this first week is called Time Over Time, which sounds a little, it's like, what does that exactly mean? But I'm going to give my best attempt at sort of these titles and how they hit the metaphor. I think that because we're losing a marble every week, it's like this is the long range view of how to invest time. Mm-hmm. So it's time over a long period of time.
Correct.
As opposed to just in this moment right now, hurry up and get it.
Right, yeah.
So tell us just a little bit then about what we're talking about when we say God helps us make the most of the time that we have.
Yeah. Well, again, it's obviously for kids, it really is love's time. To them, showing love is by giving your time. Kids know, and teenagers know how valuable time is. So if you're spending time with them, if you're giving up your time, let's say you're in the middle of cooking dinner and you stop, your child comes up to you, and I remember this happened to me a couple times. I'm really busy, I got to get dinner done, but they just want to ask you a question. You take 30 seconds to kneel down and answer that question, you've just showed that child how much you love them and how valuable they are. So, and I think everybody realizes that time is valuable, but kids especially are keyed into that. So if you give them their time, and it doesn't have to be a big show or a big parade. I think about with my kids, they don't remember the vacations we went on or the big presents they got. They talk about, and they've even done projects at school, about just the traditions that we have of the time that we spent together, the games we played together, the conversations we had in the car, the times we went to Starbucks or something like that. So it's
and so you bring up a good thing, because I think a lot of people think in terms of quality time.
Right.
Like it doesn't really matter how much, as long as when we're having it, it's really good.
Right.
But this says something different.
Right.
What are we saying about quality and quantity?
Well, it's they're together. You have to do both. I mean, and you just take advantage of the time. I mean, everybody's busy. Everybody's really busy, but how you're choosing to spend that time, and when you do have that time with your kids, or whatever time you have, even 5 minutes talking to a neighbor. Just taking advantage of being present in that moment and just listening and just being interested in them and what's going on with them.
Yeah, no, that makes a really big difference. The scripture reference here is Psalms. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Mm-hmm. Kind of inspiring for the idea of having those things, right? And having those things play out.
Yes.
So let's. So is there anything else in that first week that we really want to think about or highlight in terms of what it looks like practically for us to take that time?
Sure. I think you have, as busy as you are, you have a lot of time with your kids. So take advantage of those moments. It doesn't, you're riding in the car. What is don't let them have their earphones in. Don't have your radio on. Maybe just have a conversation. Mm-hmm. When you're at dinner, it doesn't just have to be, those big moments or bedtime or stuff like that, but just little moments here and there. Just, again, I think being present, listening to them, asking them questions, and just really, kids can tell when you're listening and when you're tuning them out, and so especially teenagers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I find that in the busy seasons, like, you really start to recognize kind of when you're doing it well and when you're not.
Yes.
Because when their expectations are feeling like they have to change, that's when you're sort of like, oh yeah, that is a big deal. That's important. Mm-hmm. And it's really easy too, I'd say, as they get older, it's easy to buy into the notion that because they may be more distant, they're sort of in that teenage year, that's a pass on not spending the time. Like, oh, well, they just want to be alone, or they just want to, I mean, for me, like, you push through that.
Yes.
To still spend the time.
Yes.
Right?
And sometimes just being there. My daughter said to me, she said, Mom, it was just nice that you were here. I didn't want to say anything to you, but knowing you were here, so if I had to say something to you, or if I wanted to, just knowing you were around or that you were available. Right. So they act like they don't, but they want you there and they need you there. So
that's great. Well, it looks like that's shaping out to be a great Mother's Day weekend for us.
It's going to be a really good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about week 2 then. Session 2, words over time. So what does it look like to use words in a particular way over this time that we have with our kids or with the kids that we have the opportunity to influence?
Right.
What's significant there about the words that we choose?
Well, I think besides the words that, there's always biblical significance of words and the things that, God tells us and we're supposed to tell them. This scripture is one of my favorites.
Okay.
And we use it in Kid City a lot
Yeah.
in our child dedication class because it's direction right from God. And it's very clear. It says, impress them on your children. And then it says, talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. So all the time. It's not just at dinner or when you're going to bed or praying. It's all the time that you are having these conversations, sharing, wisdom, whatever. So it's all the time. It's right there. So I
when
love
it comes
that.
to those words, these commandments,
Yeah.
the words of God, translating the words that we use from the words that God gives us right to our kids.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talk a little bit too about this impress upon the kids, to take these commands and impress them upon kids, as opposed to just thinking in terms of, and I think this is probably one of those areas where you can do a little tough love when you're talking to parents, in terms of like, I do think that part of our culture and the way that we respond to spiritual stimulus, we come into this environment, we may be finding our way back to God, we get some real practical teaching, our kids experience something in Kid City, our students experience something in Stuco,
Yes.
and it can feel like, well, as long as I bring them here,
Right.
that's enough.
Right.
But you might argue, and certainly that passage in Deuteronomy argues,
Yep.
that that's not enough for a parent or
Right.
an influencer
Right.
in terms of those kids. It's not just about a drop-off.
Nope.
So talk a little bit about that. Get on your stump speech on that for me.
Well, and especially in Kid City, and I know in Stuco too, they believe this strongly, but we want to partner with families, but they're the spiritual head of the household. Those are the commandments of God. They're supposed to be there. So we want to partner. We want to do our stuff on Sunday, but then we provide a number of resources.
Yeah.
So it's not hard for parents to go do stuff, or anybody, and it gives real practical things. So brand new Christians who don't exactly know how to do it, that's okay. We've got plenty of stuff, for them to use, but they don't get out of it. It's not just drop them off on Sunday and go. We're there to, expose the kids to it, and then let parents know, here's what we talked about. Here's some of the things we said. Hey, when you're having a meal, ask them this question. Or when you're driving in the car, or even for our littlest ones, when you're giving them a bath, here's some things you can say to them. So it really helps parents, no matter where they are in their walk, how to do that, because it's their job. It says it right here in Scripture.
But that can be very, very intimidating.
Absolutely.
And so I think at the same time that you're offering those tools, you're also sort of giving them permission to be freaked out. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay to be freaked out, but that still doesn't
let them out.
Yeah, it doesn't let them off the hook, and it would be a mistake for us to try to let you off the hook.
Yeah.
And so I think, I just think that, it's interesting as you look at like session 2, it's almost like session 1 is like, okay, time, I can understand that.
Yeah.
That gets, okay, words. Okay, wait, whose words?
Right.
Oh, God's words? Okay, that's a little bit harder. How do I do that?
Yes.
And so I think, opportunities that we have, either in small group opportunities or large group opportunities, to be able to share some of these resources. Here are the ways in which we want to partner with you.
Yeah, and we're totally here for, if parents want to get together whenever we have a class, we talk through a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard, it's hard to be a parent anyhow.
Sure.
But then now give them the right words. Oh my gosh, what words do I use? How do I know?
Right.
So
no, that's good.
We've got a lot of resources and a lot of people that want to help
Yeah.
and want to just join our parents in doing it. So
Awesome. All right. Well, let's move on to session 3 then, and it's kind of a really interesting progression here in terms of like, okay, I need to spend time individually. I need to share God's word individually. What does that look like? I'm a little intimidated by that. I might need some help.
Right.
And so now we go to session 3, and we're talking about tribes over time. And tribes, that's a little goofy word choice there. I'm assuming it comes from the book. But it's also those missional folk. They like to use those word tribes. They're like, you talk to your tribe, and you figure out. It's like, all right,
That's
whatever.
a good accent.
Well, thanks. Yeah,
Nicely
I've been working
done.
on it. I don't. It's definitely not Australian, but it hints at it.
Yeah,
So that's the key. But what we're talking about here, the big idea here is that in order to engage in this time, to make it the most that it can be over this time, that we need to help our kids experience a sense of belonging,
Right.
as a family,
Yep.
and as a church. So talk to us a little bit about what that means to you as a Kid City champion, and what you think kind of we need to hear from this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, we want our kids to belong to a family. And we talk about when we're in Kid City, and even Stuco, families look all different ways.
Yes.
Everybody's family is different. So they can be all kinds of family. They can be neighbors and aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas. But we also need, as a church, them to belong to, because it's the family of God. So it's a chance for them to be part of the family of God. And to do it, they want to feel comfortable in that family of God. So, we want our kids to be here every week if they can.
Yeah.
I mean, we encourage our adults to go to their small groups every single week. Well, this is our kids' chance for a small group. So if you just miss church because of this or that, it's taking your kid out of a small group and the time to connect. And I've been able to see, hands-on see those connections and that closeness. And not only that, but as kids are learning about God and discovering that, if they're comfortable in that group of people that they know they can trust and are safe with, they're going to be more open. And they're going to ask more questions, and they're going to, state more things. So it's a great thing. In fact, I was in a group this weekend of first and second graders. It was so much fun. Because we were talking about, one of the activities was about, is it easy or hard to do this? And twice I asked, is it easy to talk to your friends about church, or is it hard? And most adults would say hard. Kids, without hesitation, easy. What about talking to your friends about Jesus? Easy. So they are so open, and they want to know, and they want to hear, and they want to learn how they can they're so missional. Kids are so missional, just automatically.
Yeah.
So,
No,
so it's
awesome.
a great place for them to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, again, sort of that encouragement, I think it's interesting too to challenge parents in terms of a regular gathering, a regular attendance. That when you're ratcheting that up, you're creating a path for your kids.
Sure.
At the same time. And I think a lot of times people don't think of it that way,
Right.
especially when it comes to lots of perfectly seemingly reasonable reasons to not engage in that weekly participation. And we know that our weekly attendance, it's somewhere around 1.6 or 7 times a month.
Yeah.
And that's like a really good number.
Yeah.
And
Easy.
so yeah, it is challenging to cast that vision. I think this one will be the one that maybe makes the most sense intellectually.
Right.
But what does it take for that to really get to the heart of that person who's experiencing this and saying, yeah, this is more, because you do hear stories of kids, saying, hey, how come we didn't go to church today? And so, I mean, those are, a real part of,
Sure.
someone's experience once they've been, exposed to this kind of community. So yeah, but I think there's a lot of warfare here in this
Yes.
side of it.
Yeah.
And you see the same one in terms of adults hesitating to join a small group, and it's kind of for the same reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so it's a unique combo that we have, particularly in how we draw up Kid City, and then a lot of our Stuco setups as well in terms of small groups that are happening during the service.
Yeah.
Any other parting thoughts on
Well,
that?
and Tribes Over Time, this is a great time to talk about, maybe you want to have an influence in a kid's life and you don't have someone directly. It's a great way for them to walk into Kid City or students to kind of serve and love on kids there, because, it's amazing. And those kids, they were praying this week, and they prayed for their small group leaders. So they appreciate, and they know that they're, those people are spending time with them.
No, that's great. So
yeah.
to think about this too as an opportunity for recruiting.
And just in a subtle, but just in a, hey, if there's a way
don't have to be that subtle.
Well, that's true. It's just, you can do it both ways. You can be subtle and then say, okay, come on, let's go.
Right.
But there's always a chance there might be someone sitting out there saying, hey, I'm really excited. I want to have more influence in its students or child's life. So
Yeah.
there's great opportunities to do that.
Oh, that's
and it's
great.
very fulfilling.
That's great. All right. Well, let's conclude our time here by talking about session 4. And we're into June at this point, and that sounds really good based on the weather
And the
today.
10
Although,
inches
who
we're
knows?
supposed to
There's
get.
probably going to be snow in June. Why not? But this week we're kind of wrapping up the series "Love Over Time." Kind of puts a nice bow on it. But let's talk a little bit about what it means to love, and in what ways. I mean, having gone into some of these specifics with time and words and community, the tribes, where are we headed with this particular session?
Well, it's just, love is not just a good thing to have. It's the most important thing. Excuse me. Because in that scripture, above all, love each other deeply because love covers the multitude of sins. Obviously, we're human, and we don't always do, especially as a parent. If you're a parent, you mess up, and you don't always love your kids right, and you make mistakes, but look forward, so what do I do tomorrow with this marble that I have? What do I do? What am I thinking about? How do I do that? Because love, covers your sins too, the sins you make and the promise or the mistakes you make. So how do we do this moving forward? So who do we want to be? And really just thinking about who are the people we want to be in any kid's life, in any teenager's life, in any child's life that we know. Who is it that we want to be, and how are we doing it? Because I think love covers all 4 weeks, with the time, with the words, it's the tribes, it's all about love. It really is.
No, I think that's really smart. And I think too, giving parents hope that, because I think everyone's journey is different. And for anyone who has had a journey where they came face to face with who Jesus was, maybe as an adult, maybe already as a family unit, or maybe as a blended family, and so they carry with them maybe some guilt of things that had happened in the past.
Right.
There's just so many ways in which we can kind of trip ourselves up by not choosing to love and by not understanding how forgiving Jesus' love truly is, and that it covers so much of what we do to mess things up.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Absolutely. But I think that a topic like this can get daunting, and so I think to sort of bring back the love and be able to say, hey, this is about Jesus' love, not just what we feel, but what he feels.
Right. And you have a chance every day. You have a new chance every day, to be that love and show God's love through that.
And there are some practical steps too in terms of getting better with love, and being able to understand others. A couple references here, with Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, which I know I've used pretty effectively in my marriage, but thinking in terms of what are the love languages of your children, what are the love languages of your teenagers, or the people that you're coming into contact with.
Yep.
Certainly being able to have a perception of that or have that sort of as a part of your radar can be very helpful in terms of how you interface with someone, especially if it's someone who you're not related to necessarily, who you only sort of get those few moments.
Right.
What does it look like to be aware of that and being able to communicate in that way?
Right.
Really, really valuable.
Yeah. One of the neatest things I learned about those love languages is how we show love by either what we're comfortable with or how we perceive love.
Yes.
So as opposed to how that person perceives love. So, and I did it for, with a marriage thing too. And it was like, well, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's an easy thing to do for your child, for your teenager, for, just somebody in your life, finding out how they perceive love. And then you're able to, it just makes your job easier. It makes what you're doing a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's a great way, I think, to wrap up the series in a way that gives hope and gives life and really just communicates that, that this is something that is, God is love and this is beyond us. And so in some ways we get to celebrate that and hopefully take ourselves off the hook somewhat for that, but then also that it has a potential to engage us in saying, because of that love, because of what God does for us, we can move forward and we can take those next steps.
Yeah.
My favorite time with my kids sometimes can be those moments where I come clean.
Yes,
And I say, hey, you know what? I screwed up this part of what was going on. And so I need to apologize and I need your forgiveness. And just for them to feel what that looks like, because that's what love does,
Absolutely.
right? And so anytime you have opportunities like that to be able to move forward, it makes such a big difference. To have to know that, like, oh, yeah, these influencers in my life, they admit when they're wrong.
Right. Well, you're not perfect. And I love that's my favorite thing that you've said so far, because kids can't, if you're perfect, how do they learn how to say I'm sorry? Or how do they learn how to show love in that way?
Sure.
We're not perfect, and we're figuring it out together. And, and they do, and they feel special because you took the time to do that.
Sure.
It's okay. I messed up, and I apologize. And how do we move forward?
Right. No, it makes a big difference. And then all of a sudden you're looking at these marbles now, not as things that you're losing, but things that are a part of this journey. That you're celebrating. So.
Yeah, it's a great visual. Yeah. And I'd encourage people to encourage families, like we're going to do that in child dedication. Hey, get a big thing of marbles and just start using it. And it's in a positive way. Yeah. Look at all this time I have left. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, it's scary though. I don't want to start my marble collection because Sadie's 15 and it's like, oh,
I did Jamie's at 16 and it was like that much. Whoops.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't want to think about that, but I understand it's there.
It's great.
All right. Well, are there any other words of wisdom or encouragement or things that you're thinking in terms of this series and how those of us who are going to be experiencing this and crafting these things can think about? Or,
as you're doing whatever you're doing, make sure to bring examples of people without kids, because it's real easy to think about with your kids, but people who maybe don't have kids, so that they don't feel like, oh my gosh, this is a kid series or a family series.
Right. Let me check out.
But within it, just how are we engaging people who are grandpas or aunts and uncles or coaches or neighbors or just whoever they are, how we're constantly talking to them, because you want to keep them engaged, because I think it's as important for them.
Oh yeah.
Because we say we would love for our kids to have 5 adults in their life that influence them. So who are those people out there?
Right.
One of them could be one of those adults we want in our kids' lives.
Well, and I certainly think even as a parent, to think that it's really important that there be more than just the 2 of us.
Absolutely.
Or the 1 of us. Or however that or the 4 of us if there's a blended family.
Yes.
Whatever the makeup is. They need people, especially as they go into their teenage years. They need people that they can rely on who aren't their parents.
Yeah, my kids wouldn't be where they are today if they didn't both have people besides myself, really good people investing in them and loving them, and they're great kids, or great adults, I guess.
And in many cases, you are going to have to push through that.
Yes.
The most, I think that you can be as demonstrative as you want to be. You can throw in all of the examples of the grandpa who's making a difference with grandkids that are kids that age that aren't their own. People are still going to hear what they want to hear, and you're just going to have to push through that. And even as we've been having this discussion, we catch ourselves, right? So we go parent, child,
Right.
other adult influencer, and so those are the things you sort of have to catch yourself with an understanding that people are going to process this, but don't they're going to make assumptions about what we mean, and that might lead them to check out. And it might lead you to move away from this topic. And as best we can, we want to encourage all of you to stick with this topic, stick with the heart of what this topic is communicating, because it is about God's love. And it's so universal. Specificity brings forth the universal. Right. And so when you're specific about a particular time in someone's life or a particular person in their life, that breeds a universal quality to it, and it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
It's worth it.
Yeah. It's going to be a great series.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. All right. Well, we look forward to what you end up creating, be it a large group experience or a small group curriculum, a conversation, a way in which to engage with this, when it comes to partnering with adult arts, adult small groups, Kid City, Stuco, There's so many ways in which this kind of series gives you the opportunity to partner. So make sure you share early and share often what's taking place at your location, across ministry lines. Just make sure that you're sharing these ideas, because we know that that's only going to lead to more and more and more better ideas. You can't have a great idea until you have a lot of good ideas around to choose from.
Yeah.
When that's when that great idea shows up. So. Thanks so much, Cathy.
Thanks for letting me be here. It was
fun.
fun.
Yeah,
it was fun hanging out with you.
Wonderful conversation.
Yep.
And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Big Idea Podcast. So long, everybody.
Bye.